Hello, welcome. I'm Renee Valentina, and this is Musing Interruptus. Listen to Musing Interruptus if you like stories and learning idiomatic phrases in different contexts. You can read along. Just click on Continue Reading in the description to open a Google Doc with the transcription of this episode. The idiomatic expressions are in italics. Try to get the meaning from the context and then look them up to see if you are right. If you like it, subscribe, follow, and share. But more importantly, continue the conversation. Drop a comment with the answers to today's questions. I love hearing from you. Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world. Do you know who is famous for saying that? What a go-getter. Go-getters are quite a breed of people. I wonder if you can become one yourself, if you are more of a procrastinator, or would rather be a lover than a fighter, or maybe even just sit around doing nothing at all, waiting for the evening to roll in. This is less than procrastinating. Procrastinating would imply some sort of resistance to doing something right now, postponing it for later. I mean, the type of person who is not doing anything now and never mind later. If you are that type of person, there is hope for you yet. Go-getting might be in your future. This is not something impossible to attain. Once this happens, you start making lists, prioritizing what needs to be done until eventually your morning is packed with activities you never knew could be important. Like taking out the organic trash before the acid eats through the plastic container. Or cleaning the tops of the kitchen cabinets well before the grime reaches 4 inches and you need something to scrape it off and a bucket to haul it away with. Oh, the things you can accomplish before 10 a.m. Yes, you too can join the ranks of the go-getters. They also come up with ideas and find ways to execute them. They take interesting vacations and know where they want to eat and what museums to visit, including nocturnal experiences that the natives might enjoy before they even board an airplane. Some might say it is a matter of having the right lever and fulcrum, which are different for each person. Or so we would like to think, and some even deign to say out loud, "My fulcrum is awfully special, so says my psychologist." Or, "My lever is bigger than the rest, so I get tired faster but move greater masses." Others quietly get by and enjoy when their fulcrum and lever are admired, once evidence of movement and creation are evident and prime for praise. Things get interesting when you realize that the size of the lever and the type of fulcrum are all in your mind. A great many possibilities begin to open up. I think you can, but it is best if you think you can. A go-getter is a person who relentlessly accomplishes their goals. They are like high-endurance athletes that eat, drink, train, and sleep victory. Even if they are on the path or looking for the path, they are focused. I love that. Some may call them obsessed. I heard the label try hard, and others may simply say disciplined achievers. You might agree with me in saying they are parts of the same elephant. Do you know that story, the one about discovering the elephant? I'm not going to tell you that one, but it is in the vicinity of it. Once upon a time, a group of explorers lost their eyeballs in a freak accident involving a night of fun and games with poison darts and a psychedelic toad. The order of the events wouldn't change the outcome in this case. The crew basically enjoyed traveling outdoors. Being surrounded by trees, dirt, and animals under the great big sky was more than they needed or could ask for. Of course, curiosity and testing boundaries was also a trait these explorers shared. Once in the Sonora Desert, they came across a toad, Bufo alvarius, the secretor of the hallucinogen S-methoxy-N, N-dimethyltryptamine. Toxic when ingested, trip you and smoked, as presumed to have been done by pre-Columbian peoples. This would be useful in their present. The crew was made up by 4. Sandra Orr, an accountant by profession, Peter Carranza, a chemist, Inigo St. John, a once positioned to become pro-athlete turned librarian, and Clementine Fass, a woman on a quest with a trust fund. That time in Sonora, Peter spotted the toad, and having read the pamphlet by Albert Most, was able to get the substance he needed to get the party started anytime and anywhere. Today, we meet this crew on one of their typical expeditions. This die-hard crew was on safari and made sure that the experience was eventful, complicated, and if possible, painful. You would have to ask an analyst why. I couldn't tell you. They put it plainly. It makes for better stories at dinner parties. The night's events would include fireball ping pong and midnight Russian darts, both made up during the trip's planning sessions. This may have been one of the most enjoyable aspects of the trip for Sandra, on account of her attention to detail and satisfaction from figures tallying up. She was in charge of timetables, budgets, and this gave her a chance to visualize the activities and set up dry runs. She had whiteboards, Excel sheets, storyboards, and mock-ups. Whomever said that accountants were not imaginative had not met Sandra Orr. Had she had another upbringing, she might have become a very successful bank robber or joined the circus's acrobatic act. Back to Peter and the toad's liquids. Having previously extracted the hallucinogen and prepared for smoking, he set the pipe down and the excess hallucinogen in liquid form in an eyedropper for safekeeping. The evening's events called for fireball ping pong first, and then Russian darts. Fireball ping pong is pretty self-explanatory. A note: there is no need to douse the ping pong balls in gasoline, as they are made of cellulose and that is highly flammable. The object of the game is to hit the ball the most before it no longer bounces or flies through the air or disintegrates. You lose points if it hits you or falls on the ground. Inigo was in charge of extinguishing any fires. He was confident he could do it with low-frequency sound. This is something he learned while working at the library. He read loads of books. Russian darts was inspired on Russian roulette. Instead of a gun and bullets, darts and poison. And a setup similar to that of the game inspired by William Tell. You know, you shoot an apple off a person's head using a bow and arrow, and in this case, they positioned a friend in front of a dartboard and aimed for the area surrounding the head. If the dart player missed, you would find out if the dart was poisoned or not. Of course, the poison was not exceptionally toxic, just enough to cause discomfort. They were all relatively good marks people. And what I mean by that is they were skilled at pub darts. The fact is, they never really got to playing any of the games. Part of the preparation was to put on safety equipment, eye drops, goggles, and flame retardant gloves. They really weren't sure what happened or what went wrong. Reactions ranged from Peter Carranza's hysterical, "I'm blind! What's going to happen next?" to Inigo saying, "Hey, who turned off the lights?" Sandra sternly grunted, "Shut up! Get it together and listen here. I know what we're going to do. Just pay attention to my voice." Clementine, who had been silent this whole time, just nodded while gathering her bearings. Sandra went on to explain that they needed to stay calm and outline a plan. Unfortunately, she had not factored in group blindness as part of the risks that night. Or had she? They would need to locate water bottles to try to flush out the substance in their eyes. Then put out the fire, pack up the food, and make the 5K trek back to the vehicle, which is where the radios and cell phones were. The thing is, they would need to discover in which direction the car was parked. But first things first, they rallied, clumsily at first, increasingly becoming aware of their surroundings, recognizing things in the dark as they each tried to avoid thinking if blindness would be permanent. They poured water over their faces to no avail. The blindness persisted. They paired up. Peter and Clementine, and Sandra and Inigo. They were able to gather the perishables, or most of them, and strap their packs to their backs. They needed to be wary of wildlife, specifically carnivorous wildlife. The crew was worried about lions during the night. It would be hunting time for them soon. Once they were ready to head toward their jeep and had started to walk in the direction that most made sense to Sandra, as she was the most oriented of the group, they felt a rumble from the ground. This was definitely not part of the plan. Sandra took a deep breath in and told everyone to hug, to stay on their feet. For sure there was a stampede coming. After half a minute, Inigo said, "I don't think they're coming this way." And he was right. A herd of something had bypassed them. They continued to walk until they bumped into a wall of something. Clementine fell straight down to the ground on her bum. Peter held out his hand in the opposite direction, saying, "Here, I'll help you up." Clementine hadn't heard as much and rolled onto her side and tried to get back up. Inigo, savvy as he was, indicated that he did not remember a wall-like construction on their way from the car to the campsite, and perhaps they should turn around. Sandra simply said, "We're going to have to stick out our hands and feel our way around whatever this is." So they did. Peter exhaled and declared with the certainty that was bestowed onto him throughout his years that it was in fact a tree trunk. Sandra turned in the direction of Peter's voice and spouted, "Unless it has lungs, I'm pretty sure I'm next to a belly, and this is breathing." Unfortunately for Inigo, it was not a wall. But indeed, it was a mammal, and he was positioned around what he would learn were hindquarters. Plump, plump, plump. The feces fell around him. This too would provide information, and Inigo would not let the new evidence go unnoticed. It is a herbivore. And then the creature started making characteristic noises. And although Clementine had not been able to get back up just yet, she chimed in, "It is an elephant." None had ever been so close to such a large and peaceful being. And they were not alone. There were more as they traveled in herds. Clementine eventually did get up, and these pachyderms started ushering gently and communicating. The crew had no other option but to go along with it, so they did. What was the alternative? "Are we all together?" whispered Sandra. "Yes, yes, yes." Were those words outside of her or in her mind? It didn't matter. There wasn't much they could do anyway, just walk. It wasn't too bad. They weren't familiar with the behavior of wild elephants. When they tired from walking, the elephants hurtled around them protectively, knowingly, almost sacredly. The humans were blind, bewildered, and turned around. Not even Sandra could guess in which direction they had walked. As far as she was concerned, they never walked past the jeep. From the dew forming on the blades of grass, she realized it must be past midnight. Inigo hoped that by dawn blindness would subside. Peter said it out loud, and Inigo hushed him. "Don't jinx it." Clementine rolled her eyes and wondered if Peter had jinxed himself or the lot of them. Somehow they fell asleep. Against all odds, considering the level of uncertainty the evening had in store for them. I mean, the elephants could have led them to some sort of lair. The secret lives of elephants tell us they are highly intelligent. What if these in particular had it in for humans? There are enough poachers out there to give humans a bad rep. Perhaps they would be awakened by the drop feeling in their stomachs and chest from rolling off a precipice or a watery dive into a river. Granted, not even a babbling brook could be heard. Maybe being together was enough to allow them to sleep, as though they could lull themselves into a suspended state, almost comfort. It was scary, but they also knew there was nothing to be done. Why fight it? So they didn't. They let their bodies give in. Inigo was the first to wake up. He was being prodded. He tried opening his eyes, but he still couldn't see anything clearly. Wait. I see light, intense light. It was the sun. Light and nothing else. That must be a good sign. Hey guys, he grumbled. Are you awake? Clementine yawned and was about to say something about her eyes when she was prodded too. What are you doing here? You aren't supposed to be here. Please get up, said the manly voice. Peter started on. Oh yeah, how did you find us? What do you mean, how did I find you? You're sleeping in front of the visitor center. It's time to remove your eye masks. They lifted the masks from their heads, looked around. Why didn't they do that last night? They saw a man in safari clothing with the name tag Facundo Sea Expert Tracker. He was neither surprised nor amused. Inigo wondered out loud. What happened with the elephants? Did last night really happen? They would have to explain things, perhaps pay a fine. Where did the visitor center come from? Weren't they in the wilderness? But none of that mattered. They could see again. The afterglow was shared by the crew. Everything that made little to no sense fell into place somehow. Facundo looked at Sandra, smirked, looked at his watch and said, Are you about done? Sandra winked at Facundo. There were 2 vehicles in the parking lot. Their Jeep and a green pickup truck. The Jeep was loaded up and ready for the wild safari bunch to go to the hotel for a shower and breakfast. Another story for the books, or at least a good enough one for a dinner party. Thank you for listening. The background music is by Moby Gratis. The mix and master were done by Jesus Dario, my sound partner. What experiences do you like to share at dinner parties? What do you think about Sandra's planning? Would you like to be her friend? How do you define leverage? I'm listening.